Well, welcome along everybody to Donington Park for the opening round of the Radical UK Cup, the Hagerty Radical UK Cup to give it its full title. We've got two races coming up for you over the course of this afternoon, plus another couple of races to look forward to. So, one race coming up over the course of this afternoon, two races to look forward to tomorrow for the opening rounds of their championship. The Hagerty Radical UK Cup, apologies, I'll put my teeth in, which combines the Radical UK Cup and the Radical SR1 Cup nowadays as well. So we see a very full grid of Radical sports cars, a range of different models out there as well, including one of the fairly new recently launched Radical SR3 XXR cars as well. Peter Tyler has managed to pick up one of those, a Radical racer for a good number of years now. Slightly overcast, slightly blustery here at Donington Park. Still a chill in the air as well. Absolutely. So it's not a day for just wearing a t-shirt or a jumper. You need a coat on and maybe a woolly hat and a set of gloves because it hasn't particularly warmed up. But thankfully, whilst it might be overcast, we haven't seen any rain today. A few occasional little tiny spit in the sky, but as soon as you feel one drop of rain, that's it. It's just blowing in very slightly on the wind, and fingers crossed that will remain the case ahead of this first race of the season that's coming up for them very shortly. It is scheduled to be a 30-minute race for them. The way that the format works for the weekend is that we see this 30-minute race now. We'll see a couple of further 30-minute races over the course of the weekend, and the final race of the season always includes, a final race of the weekend always includes a mandatory pit stop in the middle of it as well, for which for future rounds cars will stop for a different amount of times depending on how they'd got on in the previous pit stop race. So when we get to, say, round 2 at Brands Hatch, depending on how cars get on in the pit stop race here tomorrow, we look back at that, and then that will work out how long they remain in the pits at Brands Hatch as well. So it tries to equalise with success seconds the winners over the course of the season. We've got a range of different former champions and runners up in the field as well. So the likes of the Radical Cup champion from last year, James Lay, he is joining the championship for this year as well. He's a former Radical SR1 champion as well. We've also got the reigning Radical SR1 champion, Daryl de Leon, who stepped up to the UK Cup at the back end of last year and raced in it. He is in for a full season as well. Jason Rishover, a former runner-up in the championship, is in here as well. The runner-up of last year's SR1 Cup. Ben Casely is on the grid as well. So a range of different returning names, but some new names joining us as well, with the likes of Theo Mercouris and Oscar Joyce having their first ever car races. They'll be coming out onto the circuit, having only experienced car racing before. Nice to see Abdullah Majid Khatib, who we've seen racing in British Formula 3 and the Gulf Radical Championship in the past. He's joining UK Cup for this round here. And also Jack Lang, who is Jack Yang. We used to have a Jack Lang. Jack Yang, who is over visiting from the US, joining us for this race as well. So a few cars to pick out. And another car I'll pick out as well. It qualified on pole in SR1, but it is prepared and supported by the University of Derby. Tom Wood, who lives literally a stone's throw from this circuit. So very much local interest in this car. It's prepared by the local university just a few miles away in Derby. Tom Wood is a local resident as well and put it on pole in the SR1 class as well. So there's lots to look forward to in this race that's coming up. We've just had one of the support races for the Hagerty Radical Cup UK out on circuit. There's a little bit of clearing up just needing to be done. A few cars had strewn themselves from that supporting race into the gravel traps, and once the hard-working marshals and officials have done their work, then we will be ready to go as well. So all of the photographers ready to pick up on the action as well with their fantastic viewing points. You can see the spectators are well wrapped up as well. As I said earlier on, you need a coat on today for sure, and you see some hoods up there as well, and yeah, the odd pair of gloves being worn. So it is chilly. There's a bit of a breeze coming in, and whilst we might think spring is here, I actually still think it's just around the corner still, because there's still a bit of a nip in the air over the course of today. However, it is due to be even warmer tomorrow. So tomorrow is due to be sunny spells all day, and later on in the day is due to be beautifully clear skies. So hopefully if we can get this overcast cloud out of the way today with the wind blowing it through, then hopefully we'll have a dry day and a successful day tomorrow. The way the calendar works for the Hagerty Radical UK Cup and Hagerty Radical SR1 Cup for this year is that they've got this weekend here at Donington Park, then the final weekend of April they will head to Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit there on the 29th and 30th of April for their second racing weekend. Then it's on to Norfolk and Snetterton on the 300 circuit in the middle part of May, the 20th and 21st of May, before they head up to Alton Park in the middle part of June, the 17th and 18th of June. A month after that, they'll head to Silverstone, the home of the British Grand Prix, and the Grand Prix circuit as well at Silverstone, the full Grand Prix circuit in the latter part of July, the 29th and 30th of July, and their final championship season rounds of the season. We'll be back here at Donington Park. We're on the national circuit today, the shorter circuit, which is just under 2 miles. It's 1.979 miles. But when we return, we're on the full Grand Prix circuit here at Donington Park, which is about 2.5 miles. And that will be over the course of the 16th and 17th of September. Another great thing for the Hagerty Radical Cup UK for this year is that whilst they are here at Donington Park this weekend, some of the other races that they have will be supporting the British Touring Car Championship this year. So they are one of the guest championships on the BTCC calendar for this year. So many of the drivers will be looking forward to racing in front of the jam-packed crowds and be playing part of those British Touring Car weekends. So that will be the highlights of their particular seasons, and it's great to see that the Hagerty Radical Cup UK is on that bill for this season. That was announced over the course of the winter. They've had a busy season, really, Radical, with the launch of new cars and ever busier in the export markets as well, shipping cars out for their various championships which exist in Scandinavia, in the Middle East, down in Australia, over in America as well, and out in the Far East as well. It is very much a global brand, Radical, and has continually been at the forefront of the development of their cars as well. So it's great to see that we've got still a huge grid of cars, 26 cars having qualified over the course of this morning. Now, the way that it works for race number 1 of the weekend, the grid, is that, of course, it is set by the fastest lap times that were set in qualifying this morning. The average speed of the pole time that was set by James Lay, who is the reigning Radical Challenge champion, was over 100 miles an hour. It's 105.7 miles per hour. Now, that's the average speed. You can just imagine what they're topping out on down the long straights as well. The second race that takes place tomorrow, that is based on the fastest lap times from race 1. So you need to get a good lap time in this race to give you a good grid position for tomorrow as well. And then race 3 of the weekend, again, it's fastest lap times, but those fastest lap times come from race 2. So you've got to keep pumping in the fastest laps in the races to give yourself a good grid position for later on. All of the cars nowadays, as was announced some years ago now, the global partner for Radical, so it doesn't matter what Radical Championship that you race in, whether it be here in the UK or further flung parts of the world, all run on Hankook tyres. So it's a control Hankook tyre that they all run on. And cars are permitted to use a maximum dry weather tyres in qualifying and racing. It's a maximum of, in the Pro category, 8 per 2 events. For the Pro category, and for the other categories, then they are restricted even further potentially. No limit on the wet tyres though, so you know, hopefully they're going to have a fairly dry season, and certainly all of them will be out there on the Hankook slicks now. And the weights of the car varies, so depending on the specification of the car, that does vary the weight of the car. But for instance, you know, some of the lightest cars, the Radical SR1s, which have the smaller 1340cc Radical Suzuki engines, they are 590 kilos there or thereabouts in terms of the weight of those. So, you know, they are quick, nimble little cars, to say the least. And the SR3s might weigh a bit more, but they have more power, have larger engine capacities as well. So, and very good aero nowadays. So that's why we're seeing the average lap times in qualifying of in excess of 105 miles per hour. James Lay was the man that did that, the man who has won back-to-back championships really in Radical, because he was the Radical SR1 champion in 2021, stepped up to the Radical Challenge champion as it was called, which is nowadays known as the Hagerty Radical Cup UK, and secured that championship last year as well. So back-to-back championships for him. So he's arguably going to be the man to beat. But all of the drivers that have either won championships or finished runners-up in the last few years are all on the front 2 rows of the grid. So James Lay, Jason Rishover, Darryl de Leon, Ben Casely, all have had good success in the last couple of years. Didn't dominate qualifying, but they were all within a second of each other. In fact, less than 3/4 of a second of each other over the course of the qualifying session. So it'll be interesting to see as to how that maps out come the race that will be coming up very, very shortly. So I think the final bits of clearing up are almost done now as well. So there were 2 or 3 cars in the preceding race that had stopped out on circuit. Some of them it was mechanical woes, for others it was contact into barriers, which means that I think there's a couple of cars just to still scoop up. If any of the barriers have been moved from their regular positions, they just need rebuilding, which is usually just a case of either a bit of belting has come off a set of tyre walls or some tyre walls need rebuilding. I don't think there was any significant incidents in the preceding race that needed sorting out, but it will just take a few moments to get everything done and dusted. Our hard-working marshals here at Donington Park just making sure that everything is ship-shape and Bristol fashion, and then the cars will be released out onto the grid in advance of this 30-minute race that is coming up. In terms of points, well, the way the championship works for points is that 40 points for a race win, it's 35 for second, it's 30 for third, and then it's 27, 24, 22, and so on. It diminishes. That's in your respective class. There's an extra point for pole position, so that will be going the way of James Lay. Pole position in your class. Tom Wood rather, will also pick up the extra point for pole position in his respective class. And there's also an extra point for the fastest lap of the race as well. So the cars are out there on their formation lap. They'll be being brought round onto the grid. And as ever, great to see so many different liveries as well. So black and purple for James Lay. Jason Rishover is multicoloured, it's sort of light blue and silver with darker blue and yellow on it. Darryl de Leon is largely black with pink flashes to the nose. Ben Casely was sort of grey and blue. Fantastic looking car of Abdullah Majid Khatib with the lurid light blue and Leighton House livery on it, so that sort of metallic blue really stands out, doesn't it? Back to the old March Formula 1 cars of Ivan Capelli and Mauricio Gugelmin, what was it, 1986, 1987, 1988 maybe in the Formula 1 World Championship. But yeah, that's another very much period livery. Also was seen on things like Group C sports cars, Porsche 962s and things in period as well. But it was more of a light sky blue. That's a metallic blue that it's there. James Lay proudly carrying the number 1. So that indicates he is the champion. He is the man to beat for this year. Can he defend his championship? Could he become a back-to-back championship in the Hagerty Radical Cup UK? We'll have to wait and see. He secured the championship last year. It was Matt Bell that secured it in 2021. Marcus Clutton, who races big GT3 cars nowadays, he was the champion back in 2020. Dominic Jackson secured back-to-back championships in 2018 and 2019, so he was a back-to-back champion. Ollie Barker was the champion in 2017. Jack Lang, we've got a Jack Yang on the grid, but Jack Lang was the champion back in 2017. Local man from just down the road here, based at Nottingham, Steve Burgess, was the man who secured the championship in 2016. It was David Ledbetter and Scott Mansell that secured it in 2015, I think, the Enduro Championship, but the Sprints Championship was secured by Ben Dimmock. So a range of different champions over the years. We're about to get the race underway, I think. So this is both the out lap from the paddock and I think the formation lap. I don't think they're going to line up on the grid for this one. So James Lay and Jason Rishover on the front row of the grid. James Lay is the black car with the purple. Jason Rishover has got the light blue and the yellow to it. And we're about to get the championship season underway in the Hagerty Radical Cup UK. James Lay gets a good start. Jason Rishover is right with him. There's a bit of weaving round as Darryl de Leon is trying to sneak his way through up into second position. As a bit of bodywork goes flying from somebody, maybe as a dive plane gets just caught by a car from one car making contact with the other, but it is James Lay that leads the way, and Darryl de Leon is down there in second place already, flashing his light. So it's the reigning Radical champion from the Radical SR1 champion that's there in second place. Former runner-up in his series is down there in third. Somebody almost running out wide beyond the curb line down at the old hairpin, but a bit of a bumpy ride over the edge of the curbs, but just manages to avoid the gravel trap. And I think everybody is safely through the first corner, including Rob Greenwood, who qualified down towards the tail end of the field. And he's just losing a little bit of time at the wheel of his SR1 relative to others. So uphill come the main pack in towards the right-hander at Coppice, first lap of this 30-minute race. Other than that little bit of contact at the first corner, I think everybody else was rather safely through, to say the least. And as they now descend in towards the braking area for Roberts at the end of lap number 1. We're about to chalk this first lap into the book. Somebody trying to make progress there. That was a number 13 car that was very late on the brakes, which was Hayden Chance. And I think he's got a good exit coming out of the corner here, so he might have half a chance of picking up a place as he heads down in towards the braking area for Redgate. He's got to attack and defend at the same time by the look of things. 3 wide heading in towards Redgate corner, and Hayden Chance, I think, backing out of it in the end as he tried to avoid things, but somebody going off ahead of him, and in fact we've got a couple of cars off and ahead. John McLeod is in the gravel trap at the wheel of the number 14 car, and joining him in the gravel trap, I think, was also Abdelmajid Khatib. So a couple of cars there in the gravel at Redgate corner, and that could potentially bring about an early safety car period, possibly. We'll have to wait and see. Your white car there, I think, was Peter Tyler at the wheel of the new SR3 XXR. Peter Tyler always used to run Dayglow livery. Yeah, safety car is coming out by the look of things because of those 2 cars stricken in the gravel trap there. John McLeod, long time Radical racer, 4th in the championship last year. 7th the year before, 5th the year before, 4th the year before, 9th the year before that. He's been in and around Radical for a huge amount of years now. Also there recovering. That looked like car number 47. Rob Greenwood had an off. So that's the car that qualified at the back that was up at McLean's corner. Lots of gravel coming out the back of his SR1. Novice cross on the back for Rob Greenwood, indicating that he hasn't got 6 signatures on his racing licence yet. So it just lets everybody know that he is a fairly inexperienced racing driver, and yeah, maybe just making a small mistake there, but ever learning, always the case. So James Lay leads under safety car as they come down in towards the old hairpin. Daryl de Leon in 2nd place, who we did see do a GB4 single-seater race last year, if memory serves me correctly. Daryl de Leon. Jason Rishover is there in 3rd place. Ben Casely is 4th in the grey and the blue car. Yannick Zalonka is next up, who we saw briefly race in the championship last year. And then after that, it's going to be number 18, which is Mark Williams, that is next up at the wheel of his SR3. Mark is eligible for the Fangio class, and the Fangio class really takes an average age of the drivers across the championship, and then if you are the wrong side of the line for the average age, then you're eligible for the Fangio class for the older drivers in reality. And that is a championship within a championship, and that has been run by Radical for a very good number of years now, actually. So safety car is up at Coppice corner. So we've got another car that's retired on the straight there. We can see the driver heading up to chat to the marshals, but the whereabouts of the car can't entirely see. I think it's out of shot and out of range from our cameras that we've got, but that is another car. We know of the 2 at Redgate corner, but that is another car somewhere that has, I'm afraid, retired from the race. So there is the stricken car of Abdelmajid Khatib. So he's being towed backwards by our telehandler unit. John McLeod's car was also in the gravel trap, so whether that has been shoved out of harm's way now or is also in the need of rescue, we'll have to wait and see. And of course, while all of this is going on, the clock is continuing to tick down. Who was leading the SR1 category in the early stages? Oh, so there is the stricken car. So that's the car that we couldn't quite see. And I'm going to offer up a possibility, but I hope it's not. It might be Tom Wood's car. In fact, yeah, Tom Wood, local man, the car that's prepared by the Derby University students, did not come through at the end of the first lap. So I do wonder if it's his car. There was another car that didn't come through, which was car number 60, which is Jack Tomlin. But Jack Tomlin's car is blue and red, and that car was sort of black, grey and yellow. So yeah, I think it's Tom Wood's car. I think it's a number 20 car. So spotted the driver's face, but didn't know. So yeah, I think it's Tom Wood that's out. So we've lost a few already. Hopefully there won't be many more laps under the safety car before we can get things back underway. The clock continuing to tick down, so it means that we're now down to 24 minutes remaining of this race. The field were already bunched up because it was so early on in the race, so there hasn't needed to be a great deal of shuffling of the order or waving cars through. So I think once we've got the stricken cars out of harm's way, of which John McLeod's is the only one that sort of has a question mark over it, so whether that's out of harm's way, and as soon as it is, we should be good to go green again once more. But the lights were still on. I just spotted them on the safety car there as it comes down in towards Roberts, which means that, yeah, we've still got vehicles working out there, and that's John McLeod's car now that's being towed out of harm's way. So John, long time Radical racer, and his best overall results in this championship over the last, 5, 6, 7 years. A couple of fourth overall in the championship in 2019. And he repeated that feat last year as well, did John McLeod. Didn't claim a win all season last year. Started it with a second place here at Donington Park. And then also had another second at Snetterton. But unfortunately for this season, he's going to start it with a DNF at Donington Park and no championship points, I'm afraid to say. So once he's out of the way, the telehandler is always based behind the barriers up there at Redgate Corner. So once that car and the telehandler are out of the way, we should see the lights extinguished on the safety car. Now, usually that would happen somewhere on the run up towards sort of McLean's, usually Coppice, and just beyond Coppice Corner, the lights should go out on the roof of the safety car, and that's the indication that it will be into the pit lane next time through. So a little bit more weaving to be done by the drivers just to try and build that little bit more temperature into the tyres, on and off the brakes as well, to try and get that heat to radiate into the carcass of the tyre and the wheel rim and penetrate them into the outer casing to build up the tyre pressures and the temperatures. But I think the safety car probably should be in at the end of this lap. The lights are still on as it goes round through McLean's Corner, but I think by the time it gets towards Coppice, and certainly by the exit of Coppice, that's when we should see them extinguished. So the rest of the field just filing their way through McLean's Corner. There's Rob Greenwood at the tail end of the field. And well, lights are still on at the moment, so clearly the safety car hasn't received the notification from race control that the circuit is clear, so some work still must be going on somewhere. It's only once all of the circuit vehicles and marshals have reported in that they are good to go that we are going to see. In fact, red flags are now coming out, so we've gone from safety car to red flag, and the red flag comes out with 21 and a bit minutes of the race still to go, 21 minutes and 34 seconds of the race to go. Now, quite why the red flag is out, we're not sure. There is the possibility, we hear, that there might be some oil at Redgate Corner. Now, whether that was cause or effect for that incident in the first place, so whether that was what put John McLeod and then Abdul Majid Khatib into the gravel trap, or whether it's as a result of the contact between the pair of them and towing them back out of the gravel that deposited oil, we simply don't know. But I think the race officials have spotted that there's oil, and quite rightly so, now thinking, well, first corner, speed that you're carrying into there, it would, yeah, there's the line of oil, crumbs, absolutely. It's all on the racing line. You can see all the way around the corner, you can see the lubricant or the oil down there. And as ever, our hard-working marshals now need to go to work. We've cleared the incident. They've now realised that, yeah, there is a change of surface there, and it's not just at the first corner, it's all the way down through the old hairpin as well. So where's that come from, that oil? We have had a few cars retire. So we did see Jack Tomalin not come through at the end of the first lap. We know also that Tom Wood retired on the first lap as well. We saw the two cars in the gravel that probably got caught out by that oil in the first place and inadvertently skittered off. But this is going to be a bit of a delay, because if that oil has trundled its way all the way from Redgate Corner down through Hollywood and the Craner curves and through the old hairpin, that's going to take a while to treat all of that. And where does it go beyond the old hairpin? Does it continue towards Starkey's Bridge and Schwantz Curve and up towards McLean's Corner? Because if it does, this unfortunately might be a bit of a lengthy delay, but there is little choice. The track needs to be safe to go racing, so our ever hard-working marshals are now tasked with putting down, it's not necessarily cement, because cement gets wet and then it sets, and that's not good, but it is a dust that soaks up the oil, so they'll put it on with the spade, they'll brush it from side to side and brush as much of it away as they can. Sometimes they'll also then bring out the tractor with the brush on the back as well to sweep it ever further. And also we'll see, in fact, they've got the leaf blower. There we go. I can see a man with a leaf blower heading out onto the circuit. So they're going to blow away the remaining dust, because once you've done that, you can never quite get all of the dust up. And then when the cars run over it, of course, what you end up with is a lack of visibility for some of the cars further back as cars ahead run over the quick dry that's put down. So leaf blower has been introduced, and that will blow away any remaining dust to make things a little bit easier. So the driver's just having to sit rather patiently there, to say the least, and wait for some sort of indication that we can get this race back underway. There, we're looking at the number 53 car, which is Ben Casely, runner-up in the Radical SR1 Championship last year. Behind him is Jack Jelonka, who did a part season with us. Car that's just behind that looks as though it says number 18 on it, which will be Mark Williams, which is, I think, absolutely the case. So Mark Williams, who used to race a Radical SR1. Can't quite see who that is behind him, which is the black car with the yellow flashes to the nose as well. And I don't think of the cars that I was able to identify. I can quite identify that one from that shot. Might need to see the number of it to be able to pick out which one that is. So we will wait and see. I would imagine it would probably be the number 4 car of Ben Stone. So Marshall's going to work. That's Redgate Corner. We can see them. Yeah, you can see the line of oil. It's not exactly a thin line of oil either, so it's needing a double line of cement to deal with it. Our circuit staff and maintenance staff and marshals working hard. If you want to become a member of the British Motorsport Marshals Club or want to join the marshalling ranks, log on to marshals.co.uk, marshals.co.uk. You can sign up to a taster day, which means that you get sort of almost a guided tour of the track in the morning by a very experienced marshal who'll show you all of the areas where you can work, because it's not just out there on individual marshals posts. You know, we need people in the pit lane, we need people in scrutineering, we need people in the assembly area where the cars sort of line up in grid order before they even go out, so they have to be collected up from the paddock area, placed in the correct order, so that when they come out onto the grid, you know, the man who's on pole is the first out of assembly, whoever's alongside him is second out of assembly, whoever's qualified out in last place is the last car out of assembly. So loads of different areas where you can get involved. Timekeeping, scrutineering, parc ferme. Log on to marshals.co.uk, have a look at a taster day, guided tour in the morning to understand all the areas you can work, and then head out onto a marshal's post to join an experienced team for the afternoon who will show you all of the whys and wherefores of marshalling. And they're all highly trained as well, so over the winter lots of training days take place to bring everybody's skills back up to scratch, both on the theory side and the practical side as well, as to what you do in certain situations, and particularly, you know, and those things changed over COVID as well, because, you know, we got some racing in between the lockdowns, but things changed because, of course, you know, usually drivers and marshals would be able to chat to each other as they are doing there, but when it was COVID restricted still, and the world generally was in a different place, then it was up to the driver to give a thumbs up. The marshals and the drivers didn't interact. They didn't get close to each other. A thumbs up was given from the drivers back then that they were okay. And we still see a little bit of that now, that drivers are still tuned again to that, you know, so that, you know, try and avoid contacting each other still. And, you know, a thumbs up from the driver, even if they have an incident, just means, yep, I'm okay. You don't need to worry. And during COVID, if you didn't get that thumbs up, then the marshals then would get closer to understand. So things are forever changing, which is why it's vital that they have these training sessions over the winter, which are held all around the country. Various circuits have them over the course of the winter to ensure that everybody is ready to go for the start of what is going to be another very busy season, not just for the drivers and the teams, but for the Orange Army as well. Now, we hear that the planned time to restart this race was 3:40, but it is 3:39 now, so that's not quite going to happen. And it's also answered where the oil slickers as well, because you can see that even in the bottom left-hand corner of the shot there, McLean's Corner, marshals are out and are treating oil. So it's gone all the way from Redgate Corner down through Hollywood and the Craner Curves, as you can see there. Marshals dealing with it. We've seen them down at the old hairpin as well. And clearly that oil then runs all the way from the old hairpin, past Starkey's Bridge, up towards Schwant's Curve, and even through McLean's Corner. So it is a good 3/4 of the 1.979 mile Donington Park circuit that has the oil around it. Now, whether there's anything after McLean's Corner, I don't know. But either way, that is a fair chunk to deal with, and it is going to be a while yet still before we get things underway, because we can still see, no matter where we look, there are marshals still busy sweeping away or putting cement dust down or walking back to their relative marshals post as well. And there's Coppice Corner, no, sorry, that's Redgate Corner. Yeah, so all the way round through Redgate Corner. And if you look at the oil line and where the marks are in the gravel, Now, they are not the same car that deposited the oil and went into the gravel, I would imagine. I can only assume John McLeod hit that oil, which put him into the gravel, and then the car that joined him, Abdelmajid Khatib, couldn't avoid it either. So it was clearly a case of oil was already deposited and cars were getting caught out, and does make you wonder whether, when Tom Webb retired down on that back straight at the wheel of his Radical SR1, whether it was unfortunately down to him, through no fault of his own. If the car's failed and it's dropping oil, nothing you can do. Yes, you can pull the car off the circuit as soon as possible, but if you're not aware it's doing it, of course you just continue round. So we're now getting the cars at least being brought forward, which means that they are lining back up on the grid once more. There will be another formation lap before we can get this restart of the race underway. The scheduled restart is for 15 minutes, I gather, at the moment, is the suggestion that the restart is going to be. And then hopefully it's going to go trouble-free. Now, for those cars that have had problems in this race, at least they've got overnight to fix them. Now, there is. Now, that's the car that we couldn't see previously. So that's the car I did say had gone missing but couldn't work out what it was. That was Jack Tomlin, who clearly was dropping the oil. So it wasn't Tom Wood. Apologies to Tom Wood, because where the line of oil disappears off the circuit, and that car must have been back behind the barrier, you can see, yeah, the car has clearly turned right and onto the tarmac to get off the racing line. But Jack Tomlin, sadly, would have been blissfully unaware that that was dropping lubricant onto the floor, and as soon as he knew, he'd have pulled the car off the circuit. So for Jack Tomlin, who we've seen racing not just karts in the past, but has raced Praga Cup a little bit in the past as well, unfortunately he is out of this race. So we need to get the Mick Avery recovery unit back into the pit lane area. That will be just heading into the background of the shot through Coppice very shortly, one would have thought. And then there he is, yep, bang on cue, in the background of the shot, heading through Coppice corner. I think the treating of the vast majority of the oil has been done now. Whether the officials have also taken the opportunity to recover Tom Wood's car from where it ground to a halt down on the straight, roughly where the recovery truck is in the background now, we'll have to wait and see. They may opt to leave that there until the end of this race and then scoop it up. But either way, the circuit is largely done and dusted now. Man with leaf blower has been busy blowing away the remaining cement dust. The marshals are heading back to their respective posts, having done their hard work. The cars are lined up in grid order, ready to have another go at getting the race underway. In fact, there is Man with leaf blower, look. See what I'm talking about? The marshals have brushed all of that with a brush, and you think you've got rid of it all, and they'd be there for hours and it would still be happening. But yeah, leaf blower works really, really well to remove lots of the residual dust. But you will still see, if cars choose to run over that on this formation lap, you'll still see a cloud of dust heading up into the sky, and slowly it will get dispersed more and more and more and more, so that visibility improves. And it's always a moot point as to whether, when you've had oil put out on the circuit as a driver, do you want to run over it? If you do run over it, that helps deposit and remove some of that dust. So that has a benefit. If you do run over it on the formation lap, it also allows you to understand how much grip there is running over it. How much still the oil is affecting that part of the circuit. Hopefully not a great deal now the work has been done to try and mitigate it. But also you will see a lot of drivers purposely avoid running over it because they don't want to, because they just don't know how the car's going to react to it, even on what is going to be a second formation lap. So we'll have to wait and see. Now it looks as though a tiny bit of work being done to Ben Stone's car there. It looks as though. And I'm not sure. That's Rob Weldon, so that's the man behind Raw Motorsport that prepares the car. Rob is a very quick racing driver in his own right. And I think that's probably either a little bit of gaffer tape being put on a tiny bit of damage, or possibly, I can't quite see from that angle, they might be putting some tape over the radiator ducts to alter the running temperature of the car. But I would have thought they'd probably not be allowed to do that whilst they're on the grid, because they're almost in parc fermé condition. So I'd imagine this is tape for safety reasons, because that's Phil, the championship scrutineer for Radical for a huge number of years. Phil Mason, that's overlooking the work, and if there's any damage to that car and the scrutineers aren't happy, you have to either retire the car from the race or satisfy the scrutineers that you've done sufficient for the car to be able to continue in the race. And I think it's the latter. I think they're just making sure that whatever it is on that car, might have been the little bit of damage that we saw when the lights went out for the first time, maybe a little bit of bodywork coming loose, but yeah, get some tape on it, secure it down, and then we're happy the car can continue in the race. And best to do it now, because if they don't get it sorted, Ben Stone in reality would be black and orange flagged and would have to come into the pits for it to be done under racing conditions. So good work by Royal Motorsport, Rob Weldon and the guys. Grid is cleared, lights are on the safety car. We're about to have another go at getting the 2023 Hagerty Radical Cup UK and Radical SR1 Cup combined season underway. So safety car should start to pull away. There we go. And then we can now safely put a line through Jack Tomlin. We can put a line through the other cars that went off, John McLeod and Abdulmajid Khatib. And we'd also put a line through Tom Wood as well. So we know they are not on the grid, but hopefully we should be able to bring you the grid now as well. Apologies, we had a small tech error on the first formation lap, but hopefully we can bring you the full grid for this one now and show the way that they will have lined up originally. So we'll run it down through it manually. So I'll run you through the grid manually. So it's James Lay that is going to lead the cars away. Jason Rishover would have been in second place on the original grid, but I think it should now be Daryl de Leon, because he managed to jump him at the start. Need a quick view of the shots of the cars as they are heading towards the camera rather than away, and hopefully we'll pick up on the race leaders. So I could just confirm that it's not original grid, it is as they were running at the time of the red flag. So James Lay leads. Yeah, it's Daryl de Leon who's going to be there in second place. It's Jason Rishover who is third on the grid. Ben Casely will be fourth on the grid. Fifth on the grid, I think, is going to be Alec Jalonka that's there fifth on the grid. Just wait for confirmation of that as the car comes through. It should be black and white. There it is. And then the next car through will be Mark Williams. Yeah, it's Mark Williams that's sixth. And then Ben Stone is there in seventh place. And after that, the cars have already gone through the shot. So that's just visually to the naked eye, picking up on what the top seven are in this second attempt to get the race underway. So it's a 15-minute restart. And message from race control is that there are going to be 2 green flag laps as well. So 2 green flag laps for this one. And one would imagine, and it's only me trying to second guess, 15-minute clock might start ticking over when they start the second green flag lap. So I think we might be not 2 laps behind the safety car and then the race gets underway. I think it might be, yeah, once they've completed this first green flag lap, the second green flag lap in theory might mean the clock starts to tick. Is that going to be the case? Don't think it is, you know. No, it's not. No, that surprises me. I thought it might be. So clearly got enough time in the timetable to be able to let them have 2 full green flag laps and then a formation lap as well. And you can see already all of that hard work done by the marshals and the circuit staff that have treated all of the oil. When the cars run over it, very, very little dust coming up now. So brilliant work to get the incident cleared. And what was a huge line of oil, you know, all the way from this point right the way to the exit of McLean's Corner, is the best part of 3/4 of a lap on the national circuit. Brilliant work by the marshals and all of the circuit staff to ensure that we have minimised the delay in proceedings. I'll say this is just the first of 3 races for the Radicals this weekend. We'll be bringing you all of the action tomorrow as well. Around about 20 to 12 will be their second race of the weekend. They'll also be back out on circuit around about 25 past 3 tomorrow as well. So they've got plenty of miles to get in over the course of a busy weekend. And it's the same format for them at nearly every weekend as well, including the British Touring Car Support races as well. I gather that there's no particular change of format for those weekends. So it's going to be a busy old season, plenty of circuit time as well. So it's again, you know, an affordable way to go sports car racing. No racing is cheap, but Radical do offer a range of different models that you can race, which all have varying budgets associated with them. They try and keep the costs down by minimising the amount of tyres that you can do. Everybody has to send the engines back to Radical Performance Engines for the engines to be tuned and rebuilt as well, but the rebuild times on the engines are good as well. Loads of teams that can support you in prepping of the car, but that doesn't preclude you from prepping it yourself and running as a privateer. And we've seen a few of those over the years, so it's a good way to go slicks and wings racing in a very powerful car that's very light with huge amounts of aerodynamic downforce as well. So let's wait and see what happens in this one. James Lay and Daryl de Leon, who are both champions in their own right last season, whether it be in the main Radical Challenge or the SR1, both line up on the front row of the grid. And as they head up towards the start-finish line, it's a full restart, remember, so it's going to be a 2x2 start. Mark Williams jinked out a little bit early and got a really good run on everybody else. Was he a bit too keen to get away, though, is the question. But it's going to be James Lay that leads, with Daryl de Leon briefly thinking about going around the outside, but to his right now up the inside comes what is Jason Rishover. There's the huge cloud of smoke as they go out of the corner, which obliterates visibility for some behind, but it is still in second place, Daryl de Leon. Jason Rishover couldn't quite make the jump and squeeze his way through. It is going to be Ben Casely who's there in fourth position as they all start to power their way past Starkey's Bridge and up towards Schwanzkirch for the first time. James Lay, the reigning champion, leads the way. The SR1 champion from last year, right with him, Daryl de Leon. Jason Rishover, who was a runner-up in this championship a couple of years ago, sitting there in third place. Ben Casely was runner-up in the SR1s last year, sitting there in fourth position. So all of the drivers that have been at the sharp end for the last few years are right in the mix here as they propel themselves down the straight and in towards the braking area for the chicane on the first lap of this restart. So the first part of the race didn't exist in reality. We can ignore that. Side by side, Yannick Zalonka just managing to hang on to the place. He's got Mark Williams absolutely in his Hankook wheel tracks as they came over the start-finish line. And now they're sort of pairing off a bit, aren't they? 2 for the lead, 2 for third place, 2 for what will be fifth position at the moment. And you can see them on the grass further back as well. That got a little bit tight there as there was tiny bit of squeezing being done there. And I think that was James Ockenden that was hugely keen not to lose a place and was sort of pressing the point there, saying, no, you're not going through there. And therefore, eventually, I think the driver behind, which I think might have been George Nutton, just backed off things and thought, hang on a minute, yeah, this is getting a bit tight now. We'd better just make sure that we can all live to fight another corner or two down the road. James Lay, straight out of the box, looking to try and pull away. Daryl de Leon sticking with the task admirably at the moment and is not letting the race leader build much more daylight between the two of them. Mark Williams still fighting away with Jack Zalonka as those two cars vie over what is fifth and sixth position. That's just allowing the lead 4 to get away. Mark Williams jinks out from behind to take a wide sweep in towards the right and the left flicks. But at the moment, can't quite muster enough. Now in a straight line, he's getting the toe here off the fifth place car. Is he going to try anything? So Zalonka goes a little bit defensive on the run in towards Redgate corner, then opens up the corner and Mark Williams thinks about sticking his nose up the inside but decides not to. Then he's going to try and get a better drive off the corner to see whether he can sneak through onto the top of Hollywood, but Zalonka's wise to that and not allowing him through. So the order for fifth and sixth still remains the same, and of course while they're squabbling they're giving time away to the leading 4 that are ever more disappearing up the road, that being James Lay, Daryl de Leon, Jason Rishover and Ben Casely. So 12 minutes of this restart still as yet to run. For the second time round through McLean's corner and up towards the blind entry double apex right-hander at Coppice corner. Jack Zalonka was on the very edge of the circuit there, so couldn't have carried much more speed through that corner in his efforts to try and hang on to fifth position. And again, he's still got Mark Williams closing in the slipstream all of the time. Keep an eye to the black car with the yellow flashes. That's Ben Stone who's right behind, and then Chris Preen is not far off that either. Chris has been racing in this championship for a good number of years as well. So down towards Redgate corner they'll go. Jack Zalonka being slightly defensive again, taking a nice tight line in towards Redgate corner. Through Redgate, onto the top of Hollywood, they will work their way once more. The order still remaining the same. Good fight for fifth and sixth, but Ben Stone all of the time behind is edging ever close. His black car with that yellow cover to the headlights on it, just edging up all of the time, Ben Stone, and bringing with him Chris Preen as well. Race leaders already threading our way through McLean's corner. Jason Rishover in third, still trying to keep Ben Casely behind. Then we see what is slowly forming into a 4-car train for what will be 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th places as they thread their way through Coppice Corner. Chris Preem pushing hard at the wheel of the carts at the tail end of this little train. But onto the brakes, flick right, flick left at Roberts, get on the power as soon as you possibly can. You can see the gaffer tape on the front right-hand corner of Ben Stone's car. That was what was being applied by Rob Weldon and the Raw Motorsport team. The other yellow headlamp cover, very much history now. Black gaffer tape is what's taken its place. Running slightly wide there with Jack Jalonka heading out of Redgate Corner. Needs to try and stay within the confines of the circuit. Run wide too many times, you'll pick up a time penalty. So they're fighting away behind these two cars. This is for 3rd and 4th place still, just heading round and up towards McLean's corner. So through Schwantz Curve goes Jason Rishover. It's been a long time Radical racer as well, Jason. Huge enthusiast. Doesn't always have the luck, but at the moment he's looking on and hoping that he can hang on to this final podium spot. Look in his mirrors, he's got Ben Casely right behind him. And Jason Rishover is another one of the drivers that's also eligible for the Fangio Cup. He's one of the older drivers in the field. So that is what is a separate points scoring system within the main championship points. So Jason Rishover would pick up points for the main championship and separate points also for the Fangio category, which he is comfortably leading at the moment because the next Fangio driver is down in 6th. That's Mark Williams. So he's got nearly the whole length of the start-finish line between himself and the next Fangio class driver. But what Jason really wants is, yeah, winning Fangio's great, but I want a podium overall, and that's 3rd at the moment. And if he drops 1 place, he's down to 4th. He's having to fight hard for it because Ben Casely is right behind him. So through the right-hander at the old hairpin, you can see just how much speed these Radicals carry through that right-hander at the old hairpin. So it's called a hairpin, but it's not at all. It's a brake, maybe down a gear, pitch the car in, grab the apex, and you're on the throttle almost before the apex at the old hairpin. Be careful not to run wide on the way out, though. You can run a little bit wide, but if you go onto the grass, it's usually very bumpy on the outside. And in a Radical with fiberglass bodywork and very little ground clearance, you can soon rip off the spoiler and rip the front of the car off. So Jason Rishover looking in his mirrors just to understand where Ben Casely is as he continually hangs on to the position. And that, I'm afraid, is off and into the gravel for Ben Stone. So Ben Stone has had an off. Now, was that a mechanical issue that he's pulled the car off as quickly as possible, or did he outbrake himself? That looks like it's at Coppice Corner where he's gone off. He's very quickly out of the car and running to the safety of being behind the barriers. The marshals saying, yep, okay, you're fine there. The car's a long way into the gravel. It is at Coppice Corner. And that is, I'm afraid, going to be Ben Stone out of the race with 7.5 minutes remaining. Now, does that mean we're going to have another safety car period? I can see the safety car moving off to the right-hand side of our screens. And I think we are, you know. I think that is going to bring about another safety car period, I'm afraid. And confirmation, yep, we can see the safety car boards are out there. Safety car being shown on our screens. So we are going to neutralise the race again to extract Ben Stone's car out of the gravel. Now, it should be a reasonably quick process to get that car out of the gravel, but what we need to do is get the safety car out there and get all the cars queued up behind it, then get the telehandler out, connect that to the errant car of Ben Stone, get it out of the gravel, position it so it's in a place of safety, and get the telehandler back behind the barriers, and all of that has to happen in 6 3/4 minutes, I'm afraid. So it's going to be tight, you know. The marshals and the officials will work as quickly and as diligently as they possibly can to conduct the process that they need to go through, but whether there's enough time on the clock remains to be seen. And the one thing they won't want to do is, in one respect, hurry it and then make mistakes, or hurry it and damage the car. They'll work as quickly as they can and as effectively as they can to try and get it out of harm's way so we can at least get another lap or two of racing in, but how many we get is a bit of a moot point at the moment. So the BMW safety car back out onto track. Bunch the field back up again once more. And all of those squabbles that were taking place, where they'd sort of paired off or worked themselves into four busy squabbling away. Well, we're now going to have a huge train of cars again, all fighting for position, because they're all going to be bunched back up again when we get the race fully back underway. So there's the telehandler already out onto the track. 60 seconds have elapsed since I went through the process that we needed to go through. Well, we're already moving the car out of harm's way, and with 5 minutes to go, that's a good sign, because hopefully it's not going to be too long before they can get that car into a position of safety. They might not put it behind the barriers, they might just tuck it right the way out the way where it's not in the firing line, and then get the telehandler back behind the barriers, and then we'd be good to go. But that's going to be at least one more lap, I would have thought. At least one more lap. So who's leading the SR1 Cup at the moment? Need to look through and see who is leading SR1. And it is in 12th position, the number 74 car. So Theo Mercuris, having his first ever car race, having stepped out of karts. Looks as though a total rookie at the moment is turning the tables on everybody else. So the number 74 car running 12th overall. He's on for a good result here. I think it's largely white, his car. But he is going to be leading the Radical SR1 Cup section of the race. And then it would be George Nutton that would be second in the Radical SR1s. He's driving the largely black and burgundy number 45 car. And third in the SR1s is going to be another rookie. And that's another driver that's having his first ever car race, having stepped out of karts. That's Oscar Joyce at the wheel of the number 95 car, which I think is largely... his is the multicoloured car, so it's sort of white, pink, green, yellow, you name it. It's got really strange livery on it, that one. So I think they're the top three in the Radical SR1 Cup section of the race at the moment. And certainly for Theo Mercuris, he'd be desperately trying to hang on to what would be a class win in his first ever car race. Just having a quick look at as he comes through shot. Yeah, there he is there. He's just gone through shot there. It is absolutely the case. Yeah, he leads SR1 Cup from George Nutton and then Oscar Joyce. So those three together are nose to tail on track as well. So that's 12th, 13th and 14th places overall. So lights are out on the safety car. Brilliant, brilliant job by the marshals. I thought we might struggle to get any more racing laps in. They've done it so effectively. We're going to get at least 3 racing laps in, I would have thought. So James Lay looking to try and see if he can scoop up win number 1 of the season. Remember, he is the reigning champion in the opening races at Donington Park last year, where he secured the championship title by the end of it. He only finished on the podium once in the opening weekend of racing. He took lots of wins later on in the year, but could he get his account up right away? Let's have a quick look now. Jason Risch over there has got Ben Casely ahead of him. He's got Mark Williams right behind him. So already the leading pair are getting away. And Rishover's trying to get the overlap on Ben Casely. He's trying around the outside at Hollywood to get the inside line. And they were almost 3 wide there, but brave stuff by Jason Rishover. He probably had to breathe in there. Now Mark Williams dives at the inside of Ben Casely as well. Needs to be careful he can get off the corner well. Otherwise, Casely will get the cut back on the exit. But brilliant stuff. 2 places lost there by Ben Casely. Brave driving by Jason Rishover. Late on the brakes by Mark Williams, and place gained by both. Casely now takes a wider turn in towards McLean's to try and cut back on the exit, but again Mark Williams is wise to that and just covers off any move on the run up towards Coppice corner. Jack Gilonka is also now keeping very busy in 7th place at the wheel of the black and blue car, because he's got Chris Preen weaving one way and weaving the other. Also Hayden Chance, former Ginetta Junior racer, is right behind him as well. Hayden Chance will be feeling the pinch as well, because he's got someone else tucked right on his trumpet that looks to try and work their way through, and I think that's Andy Lowe. But you can see this safety car has really bunched everybody up again. Mark Williams still trying to cling on to the place. Now there is a change of position. Jack Gilonka has lost out there. Chris Preen at the wheel of the white and metallic green car sneaks his way through. So that will put Chris Preen now up inside the top 6 with a minute and a quarter to go, and the race leaders already stretching their way up towards McLean's corner, with James Lay leading the way at this stage. James Ockenden is never too far away though, so that's 1st and 2nd going through shot. Jason Rishover 3rd. Mark Williams still trying to keep Ben Casely at bay, and then Chris Preen in his newly acquired 6th place at this stage. Leading SR1s still. It is still the number 74 car, further down through the order of Theo Mercuris. Off and all the way through the gravel goes Jacques Jelonka. Huge rally crossing moment at Coppice Corner. He was 6th at the start of this lap, but he's probably going to be struggling to be inside the top 10 now, one would have thought. But yeah, Peter Tyler has gone through. Also the number 5 car of Daniel Headlam has gone through. So by the time the rally crossing Jacques Jelonka retakes to the tarmac, yeah, down in 11th place as Casely now tries all the way around the outside at Redgate Corner. Surely that's not going to work. No, indeed it doesn't. So Mark Williams hangs on to the place. The clock is almost at 0, and the leaders are down at the old hairpin with, in 2nd place, Daryl de Leon, having set the fastest lap of the race so far in his efforts to try and close up the race lead. 1 minute 6.906 from Daryl de Leon. Is that too little too late, or might there be an opportunity? His best opportunity is either a really good run coming out of this corner here, Coppice, or hoping for some sort of mistake down at the Roberts chicane, because the clock is at 0. They are on the last lap, and James Lay is looking for win number 1 of the season. Remember, looking to try and secure a defence of his title. We saw back-to-back championships for Dominic Jackson in this series a few seasons ago. He's not the only back-to-back champion. I think Steve Burgess did it many years ago, but James Lay is going to get the season off to a best possible start, as he is going to claim the win in the first Hagerty Radical Cup UK Championship race of the season. Darren de Leon comes through to finish in 2nd place with Jason Rishover in 3rd. It's Mark Williams in 4th, Ben Casely in 5th place, Chris Preen in 6th position. 7th at the moment, that looks as though it's Hayden Chance, the former Ginetti Junior race, that's there in 7th. Andy Lowe is there in 8th position. Peter Tyler is 9th, and it's going to be Daniel Headlam that completes the top 10th, with Jacques Jelonka recovering to finish in 11th place. And 12th place is going to be the first of the drivers home in the Radical SR1 Cup element of the race, which is Theo Mercuris. His first ever car race, fresh out of karts, claims the win in the Radical SR1 category of it. So he will be as pleased as punch with that one, and rightly so as well, that he managed to do that. That is a good result for him, and a good result for the other driver that was having his first ever car race as well. So there is Theo Mercuris as the winner of the Radical SR1. So those are the little 1340cc Suzuki engine cars, Gen 2 engine. So that will please him, and it will also please, I would have thought, Oscar Joyce, who was third in that category, 2nd of the rookies home, but 3rd in the SR1s, because he was another driver fresh out of karts, first car race on the podium in his class. So yeah, good driving from both of those. Let's confirm the results with you then for the first of our Hagerty Radical Cup UK races of the weekend. 2 more to come up tomorrow. Darren Lay claims the win. James Lay claims the win from Daryl de Leon in 2nd place, Jason Rishover in 3rd, Mark Williams in 4th, Ben Casely and Chris Preen complete the top 6. It was Hayden Chance who was there in 7th place, ahead of Andy Lowe in 8th place and Peter Tyler in 9th. And Daniel Headlam completed the top 10. In 11th place, it was Jacques Jelonka, with 12th place going the way of the Radical SR1 Cup class winner, Theo Mercuris. George Nutton was 13th, and then it was Oscar Joyce who was in 14th place. Jack Yang, visiting us from America, finished in 15th place, with James Ockenden in 16th place. And Alex Spooner was 17th, ahead of the 2nd member of the Nuttall family, which is Darren Nutton, who finished in 18th place. And then it was the pair of Gaunts, Ashley and Bradley Gaunt, that completed the top 20. Those are the 2 cars that finished just outside of the top 20. Number 47, Rob Greenwood, was the last of the cars home, because we had retirement and often into the gravel for Ben Stone up at Coppice Corner. So that's all from the Hagerty Radical Cup UK here at Donington Park today. Don't forget, we've got 2 further races coming up over the course of the weekend, so be back with us for around about 12 tomorrow, where we'll have race number 2 of the weekend.